Guys, this is Chaos Chrono back with our last deck for this display, deck number 12. I've got one more display of Dark Tidings and one display of Mass Mutation. Let me know what you guys want me to open next. Let's move on to our last deck. Alright, the last deck in this display is an Unfathomable, Sanctum, and Saurian deck. Gatehaven's Honest Archer. Nice purple Archon. Let's see if it lives up to the color of the Archon. Alright, starting with Unfathomable, we have Wicolia, 3-power creature with Reap. Keys cost +2 Amber during your opponent's next turn. Sink or Swim, it's an action. When you play it, choose one. Your opponent discards a random card from their hand, or exhaust a creature and each of its neighbors. Seabringer's Kikoa, it's a 7-power creature with Taunt, and when it's destroyed, raise the tide. Portal, it's an action. Amber, whenever you play it, if the tide is high, archive Portal, otherwise, raise the tide. Horrid Sign-In, it's a 4-power creature with poison. Hookmaster, 4-power creature with Fight. If the tide is high, your opponent loses 2 Amber. 2 copies of Hookmaster. Bubbles, 5-power creature with Play. Put an enemy creature on top of its owner's deck. Copy, 2-power creature. Your opponent cannot play more than one card of each type, action, artifact, creature, upgrade, each turn. Abandon Ship. It's an action, and whenever you play it, return a creature to its owner's hand. If the tide is high, return 4 creatures to their owner's hands instead. Teweki Kraken. Haven't seen this one before. 12-power creature with Play. Exhaust 2 friendly Unfathomable creatures. If you do not, destroy Teweki Kraken, and it has Fight Reap. Deal 2 damage to a creature with 2 damage splash. Cool. Rustmisser. It's a 5-power creature with Reap. Exhaust each enemy artifact. That's it for Unfathomable. Moving on to Saurians, we have Undagnathus. It's a 12-power creature, and while the tide is low, Undagnathus deals no damage when fighting. Medicus Lacus, 5-power creature. While the tide is high, you may spend Amber on friendly creatures as if it were in your pool. 2 copies of Medicus Lacus. Crushing Charge is an action. When you play it, destroy each creature with power 4 or lower. Gain 1 chain. Cornican Octavia, 5-power 1-armor creature. With action, capture 2 Amber. Censor Philo, 5-power creature. Censor Philo cannot be dealt damage by creatures with Amber on them. 2 copies of Censor Philo. Pterodactyl, 12-power creature. Pterodactyl enters play stunned. Pterodactyl only deals 4 damage when fighting. Before fight, deal 4 damage to each neighbor of the creature Pterodactyl fights. Bury Riches, it's an action. When you play it, if the tide is high, move 1 Amber from each creature to its controller's pool. Otherwise, raise the tide. Bestiary's Urso, 5-power creature with Play Reap. You may unstun a creature. Tertiate, it's an action. Amber, whenever you play it, destroy 1/3 of all enemy creatures and 1/3 of all friendly creatures, rounding up each time. Brachioditis, it's a 9-power creature with Deploy. When you play him, stun each of Brachioditis' neighbors and move 1 Amber from each of them to the common supply. That's it for Saurians. Moving on to Sanctum, we have Strange Ordination. 3 Amber whenever you play it, and you may only play it if the tide is high. Survivor, it's a 1-power 5-armor creature with Taunt. Shifting Battlefield, it's an action. Amber whenever you play it, move a friendly creature anywhere in your battle line. That creature captures 1 Amber. Celestial Sargassa, 6-power 2-armor creature. After a player raises the tide, a creature they control captures 2 Amber from their opponent. Martial Ewer, 4-power 2-armor creature. With Play Fight, raise the tide. Grand Melee, it's an action. Destroy each creature that does not share a house with at least one of its neighbors. Cleansing Wave, heal 1 damage from each creature. Gain 1 Amber for each creature healed this way. Badge Magus, 4-power creature with Deploy. And fight, Radiant fight with each of Badge Magus' neighbors 1 at a time. 2 copies of Badge Magus. Red Hand Registry. It's an artifact. Amber whenever you play it. After Amber is stolen from you, your opponent skips their Forge a Key step during their next turn. 2 copies of Red Hand Registry. Light Everlasting. It's an action. Amber whenever you play it. Play a Sanctum creature from your discard pile anywhere in your battle line. And that is it for the deck. Now to check out the highlights of this deck. Alright, looking at the highlights of this deck. Overall, the Unfathomable doesn't really have any specific focus. It's got a lot of supported cards for various goals. You have your artifact control, board control, disruption, amber control, although mostly on creature form, and some cards that affect the tide mechanic like Portal and Seabringer Krakoa. All in all, not too much going on for the Unfathomable suite, so I don't really see much highlights so much as individual pieces that could be useful under a given situation. Also with the Taweki Kraken, it's one of those big creatures that has a bigger cost to playing it than you would think. So essentially you need 2 Unfathomable creatures on the table ready to go before you can play him down. And the overall power of Taweki Kraken isn't that much more than something like the Pterodactyl. And when you limit when you're able to play it, there's definitely ways the opponent can make sure you have a hard time playing it down. And even then, a single target removal card like Hand of Disc could get rid of it. On to Saurians. So Brachioditis was an interesting card. It stuns both neighbors and moves Amber from them to the common supply. It'd be way better if it moved the Amber to your pool instead, as the cost of stunning both of them is pretty pricey for the effect of moving the Amber to the common supply. Preventing your opponent from getting the Amber versus getting the Amber yourself at the cost of stunning your creatures, I think it makes it not really worthwhile. For Bestiary Urso, it's a nice counter to the effects of Brachioditis. I was wondering when I would make use of him in the other decks. So here there is a purpose, but it's to balance out a negative effect from one of your own cards, so I don't really like that. We got a section of removal cards, Tertia, Pterodactyl, Crushing Charge, all of them help wipe the board. Berry Riches is another tide control card, along with Amber control, so that's nice. Sensor Philo, again, really only shines when you're fighting against somebody that captures Amber. Cornican Octavia is going to be one of the main creatures here that's going to help you capture Amber to begin with. And the Saurian suite is kind of geared towards helping you utilize Amber that's on your board and captured by your creatures, but we're kind of lacking in creatures that actually capture for you, or cards that help you capture more Amber. There's Medicus Lacus. With 2 copies, you have a higher chance of utilizing the Amber that's on your board, but I don't see all that much. For Sanctum, Red Hand Registry, just because there's 2 of them, the question is whether or not they would stack, but since it's just affecting the next time, I feel like they would just be redundant. Badge Magus would be nice in this deck since we have a lot more creatures, so in that sense we can make use of the fight capability. And we have several creatures with decent fight abilities like Hookmaster. However, with Hookmaster, we don't have a way to give them Skirmish or a way to heal them other than as a Cleansing Wave, so they might be a little short-lived, to say the least. Cleansing Wave, always a great card, especially when you don't have too much armor to deal with on your side, so you're going to be taking some damage. Just from the sheer number of creatures, that could be a 1-turn big play in this deck. But because there's no archiving, you're going to be holding on to that card if you're relying on that play. And that can chain yourself. Grand Melee is another board control card. Martial Ewer is another tide mechanic card. So it's nice to see all 3 houses have a card that can affect the tide, especially when you have many cards that you need to use with the tide. Things like the Medicus Lacus that we saw, or Hookmaster for the Amber control. And Sinestral Sargasso, as a result of raising the tide, that's going to allow you to capture Amber. Sargasso looks like a key part to this deck, as you'll need to use his ability to capture your opponent's Amber. And even if your opponent captures the Amber from you, you have things that'll benefit from that. Shifting Battlefield is another card that helps with the capture. And then the rest of it is just at face value. So all in all, not too much going on in this deck. There's that Cleansing Wave big play. There's some cards in here that I guess work well with others, but it's to mitigate the weakness of that other card rather than to exponentially enhance the performance of the deck. There's a lot of creature control, so anything that has a big board, this deck has a fair chance against. But the overall Amber control, Amber generation, which depends on the board, I feel like is a little lacking. And artifact control, obviously we only have an exhaust option, so any permanent effect artifacts are not going to be affected. So this feels like a weaker deck. I'm going to rate it at 60. It can swing a little higher and lower from there, but I think that's a fair estimation of this deck's capabilities. We'll look at all the detailed numbers and compare it to the DOK site as usual. But that's it for this deck. As I asked in the beginning of the video, let me know what you guys think I should continue with, if you want to see another display of Dark Tidings opened up and reviewing those decks, or if you want me to jump back to Mass Mutation for a little bit and see 12 decks from that set. Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, that is it. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. As always, be kind and happy forging.